Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything. I'm coming at you with another Wargaming and miniature video. In this video, we're going to build a tavern for Dungeons & Dragons. What I've done is we're playing D&D and we're playing the Waterdeep Dragon Heist campaign. And in that campaign, the players acquire a tavern called the Troll Skull Manor. And I originally drew it out on paper so that I could put it on the table and we can play, use it as a reference to move figures around, things like that. Well, I've decided I want to make a 3D representation. So I got some PVC and I cut it into the proper shape. I primed both sides black. Okay. Now, the reason why I primed the PVC before I assemble it was because PVC is like a really slick plastic, and glue doesn't adhere to it very well, but primer works just fine. And by priming it now, when I go to glue things down, it'll actually stick better to it. That was my philosophy. And then I went and I drew 1-inch squares. I don't know if you can see that. I drew 1-inch squares with pencil, so that when I go to create the floor, which is the next step I'm about to show, I'll have a guideline. Okay, I took some cardstock, right? I cut it into 1/4 inch strips, right? And then these strips I cut into 1-inch pieces, and that's what's in here. I've got these 1/4 inch by 1-inch pieces. Now some of these are bigger than others. Some of them are too big, some of them are too small. What we're going to do is we're going to throw out the ones that I don't use. But the ones that I'm going to show you how I make the floor. Now I'm only using cardstock to give it a little bit of extra thickness, because when I go to paint it, I'm going to dry brush it. And when I dry brush the flooring on there, the gaps between the card paper will make it look like wood. Now the reason why I made them in 1-inch strips instead of maybe 4-inch or whatever is because I'm going to do an alternating pattern. So we're going to see like wood facing this way in one section, and then wood facing in this way in another section. And what that's going to do, it's going to give 1-inch squares that the players will be able to use for movement in the game. Right? Right. And it's going to be just like that. Exactly. So what we're going to do is, now I'm not going to do it in this little 2-inch spot right here, because that is where there's a set of stairs going up to the second floor. But everywhere else, it's going to be just like that, because this is the balcony, this is the porch out here, and then I'm going to have to do walls and everything else. But I'm doing the flooring first. All right, now I'm also going to be using the Disappearing Purple Elmer School Glue stick. It's basically like a purple glue, and it dries clear. But what I'm going to do is, I don't know if I have enough of this. If I don't, then I'll go to my tacky glue. Let's go ahead and get started right here. In that corner there. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a one-inch square. And anything that might overhang, I'll just trim off with an X-Acto. Okay, but you get the idea of what I'm doing here. See, and these will be the floorboards. And this is a time-consuming. This takes a lot of patience and time to do. I even cut one in half so that it would fit in the floorboard the way I've got it. Okay, and that's fine, having a little bit of imperfection. That's exactly what I'm hoping for. Maybe cut that little piece off right there, see? Easy peasy. All right, so let me get more of this finished and then I'll be back. Okay, so I've got the baseboard all done. Now I'm going to hold it up a little bit so you can kind of see. I don't know if you can really see it right now because of the glare and the white, but you can see the wood slats are going like going one way, back this way, back this way, back this way. So it's kind of like going one way, one, and that'll make those 1-inch squares. All right, so now I'm going to let this dry, and then when I come back, I'm going to take my X-Acto knife and I'm going to trim along the edges here, cutting off any of the excess, and then we're going to go prime it. I'm going to prime it black. All right, so what I've done is I've taken a few moments and I've kind of rubbed over the boards with my thumb, basically just locating any bumps, maybe from glue residue or something like that, just to get all that off of there. There was a couple of spots where the boards kind of overlapped a little bit, like right there. But mostly it was good. Very little glue residue. Some of it I didn't want to wipe off because I don't want any little extra bumps in there that don't need to be in there. A few is okay, but not the big ones. All right, and like I said, what we're going to do is we're going to flip it over and we're going to cut off all the trim. But before we do that, before we cut off all the trim, there's another step you can do. It's not necessary, but what you can do is you can kind of drag your knife along each of the boards. I know there's, how many boards are there? Like 100 boards. what I'm going to do is I'm going to do all the horizontal ones first, and I'm dragging my knife across it 4 or 5 times per board, just at a random, just randomly, because what that's going to do is when I paint it, it's going to show up as wood grain, right? All right. Do you need it? No, because just by crisscrossing the boards, you're already and leaving a little bit of a gap between all the boards, you're already kind of giving it a little bit of wood grain. But you know me, I got to do everything. All right, let me hit all these up with some wood grain. I'll be right back. Okay, so now all the wood there has the wood grain cut into it. Well, cardstock has the wood grain cut into it. Now what I'm going to do is flip it over and cut off all the excess. It should be fairly easy. Okay, so we got all the excess cut off. Now the reason why I wanted to really cut off the excess and not leave it is because when I put the walls on, I'm going to be gluing them to the outside edges. Alright, so now what the next step is to prime this black, and I'm going to prime it flat black. Alright, now while we're waiting for the floor to dry, one of the easiest things to make in this bar is the in the tavern is the actual bar itself. And as you can see, it's a 2 inch by 2 inch bar, and what I'm planning on doing is using foam board as the vertical, and then I'm going to use backer board as the because what I'm doing is the 2 plus the 2 plus 1/8. Okay, so then I'm going to cut this, obviously. Okay, so that's going to be the bar. Now at exactly 2 1/8, what we're going to do is we're going to split this bar, but we're not going to go all the way through. What I'm going to do is I'm shaving at a 45-degree angle from both sides. Cutting a wedge out of the bar. So now I can take the bar and I can fold it. Okay, it looks like I hadn't taken enough out. So what I needed wasn't sharp enough of an angle. Is that going to do it? Nope. Because what I'm trying to do is fold it 90 degrees just like that, but leaving the paper here so to hold it, to give it some stability. All right, some more things that I need to build while we're waiting for that to dry. I'm going to build this fireplace because that's a predominant main thing in the center of the inn, and I'm going to use foam core as well. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use like 1 inch by 1 1.25 inches, and then that's going to sit like right there, and I'm going to build it up. And I only need to get about 3 or 4 different pieces. Okay. I've had some leftover foam core from a long time ago. Okay, what we're going to be using is tacky glue, but I'm going to use the fast grab. And I put some wax paper down, so I don't want anything being glued to my table or my cutting board. All right, so that's the little fireplace that's going to go inside the inn. You can see how it's stacked. What that does is it helps make it look like it is bricked. And it's bricks, not just one big piece of foam board. Primed floor, and you can see, hopefully you can see, I'm going to adjust the angle on it a little bit so you can see all the wood grain. And remember, this part right there is going to be stairs going up to the second floor, which I'm not building. I'm only building the ground floor, which is the tavern. The second, I am going to put the stairs there, but I'm not, and I am going to make it level. The tops of the roofs are going to be level so that if I ever do want to make a second floor, I'll be able to do that and just sit it on top of this.
That's not the glue in.
All right, now this is making the oven, right? We got a 2-inch tall oven. Now once this glue dry, well, I need to straighten up the back. So what I do is I lay it down and I press it up against the board there, ensuring that all the pieces are flush with the back. All right, now the key is on corners, on certain corners, what I'm going to do is I'm going to score the edge to get it to wrap around corners. But there's a couple of spots, like this area right here is a porch. So when I do that, I'm going to have to figure out a way to have the wall. I'm going to have to cut a little bit off of the wall, about 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little more, to fit properly in there. And then I'll have to score craziness around this edge here. Okay. I should use a longer one. Nope. This is the one I'm going to use. Match it up here. We're going to score it there. Okay. And then it's going to fold and go straight. And then right there, we're going to cut off 1/8 of an inch. It's okay. I will score it here. But that means it's going to fold the other way, so I'm not cutting off the top. I'm going to be cutting off the bottom here. I almost did it backwards. Okay. There, that was a pretty deep cut to allow me to fold it like that, so that when I put it on there, okay. This can probably be done by hand. I mean, by eyesight. I don't have to necessarily need to measure that or use a ruler. Okay, cut a little notch out, scored it, folded it, and then it'll sit just like that against the wall. Alright, just so you can kind of see what I've done here is I've taken my hobby saw and I cut into the side of the styrofoam and pressed in the wall into the styrofoam like that, so that when I put it on the back of the house, it's gonna sit perfect. I won't even have to mess with it at all. I also took my, well here, let's just find the exact spot that it's going to be in. Foam board, and I've trimmed it, the whole side, all four sides, to make it look smoother. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to put a layer of Elmer's glue around the entire oven. I did this on the fireplace as well. What I'm going to do is, you'll see, quite a bit of Elmer's there, quite a bit of Elmer's here and there, all along the back. Because when I spray prime this, the primer, the spray paint, will have a negative, it will melt the styrofoam. So by giving the styrofoam a coat of Elmer's, the styrofoam doesn't come into direct contact with the spray primer, if that makes sense. So basically I put a heavy coat and I press it in with my fingers to ensure that every piece of the foam, I don't care about the paper, but every piece of the foam, exposed part of the foam, is covered with an Elmer's glue. And if it's all not covered, that's okay too, because it is like a clear, so it's no big deal. Put a bead along this edge and this edge, and just a little bit over the top. Okay. Now I could just sit here and hold it for an hour. I don't want to do that. It'll take forever. So I'm going to lay a piece of tape underneath. Like so. And then I'm going to pull the tape up. And that's the tape itself is going to hold that against that side. I probably should do a little piece of tape there. Maybe a half wide tape. As you can see, it's coming off already. There, now that should hold that in place while the glue dries. It's supposed to anyway, right? Okay. And if for whatever reason the tape doesn't release, like if it the glue actually grabs it and it stays on there, that's okay. It doesn't matter. I'm totally okay with that. Okay, let's reach up and keep that from coming off. I'm just applying a little bit of downward pressure. That looks good. Alright guys, welcome back. It is actually the next day. I wanted to let you know, or show you, that I was able to glue the interior wall in right here, as well as this wall and this wall behind the stairs. So now what I want to do is I want to work on the bar, right? I have cut out some foam board that I'm going to glue onto the ground right there as such. Center it on this wall here, put it on the 90 degrees. It's going to be perfect. Now the countertop, what I'm going to use is a piece of balsa wood. I have a very thin countertop style piece of balsa wood, and what we're going to do here is we're going to do from the wall, and then I'm going to have to shorten this piece down to match, if that makes sense. Man, this thing keeps moving around on me. You know what I'm going to do? Use some of my painter's tape. So I can just hold it down in place. Okay. Along those squares, then a bead along these squares, and a bead slow, just a little bit up on the wall, not a whole lot. And then I'm going to put a bead in between where the fold is, so that when it folds over it'll connect and it'll glue together. I'm going to put a bead along the top. Okay. So far so good. Short one goes here, and I'm going to center it, and I wanted to make it big enough so that my players could actually put figures on top of the bar, because it seems like whenever there's a fight everybody wants to jump on top of the bar. Well, there's only been one fight so far in the tavern, so okay, that looks really good, because that weight on the wood will apply pressure. It'll also keep the foam board from shifting. Okay, we're going to glue that down. Onto the form, applying downward pressure. Okay, let's see if I can work around this. What I need to do now is, what I want to do now is to make a rail right here. Just a simple handrail, not too complicated. I'm going to use some of these thin pieces of balsa. I'm going to put just a couple of strips along there, and then I'm going to put, I don't know, these all sit. Ooh, there we go. This one looks good. And then I'll lay this. This one's going right up against the wall, just to give it that little extra stability, holding up the wall, also the wall holding it up. Okay. Make sure I hit this up with some glue. And the trick is flipping it over. What it looks like. Looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. Now I still have to dry brush this brown and paint these like stone colored, and do like, what I want to do is I'm going to use like a really dark brown and then maybe a light brown dry brush. But I'm going to move over to my painting table and we'll do that. All right, so we're back after painting it. What I did was I took some brown spray primer and Rust-Oleum flat protective enamel, and I just sprayed it on there. So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to dry brush the floor with this teddy bear tan, and I want to also hit slate on the stones. So we'll do slate in a minute, but I'm going to use this wide bristle brush here to do the floors. Okay, and since it's a dry brush, it's not really, I guess it is a dry brush. Actually, I could. All right, so I did the dry brush, and you can see that it's irregular or imperfect. That's kind of intentional. I wanted, and you can see the squares that I made, you know, the board's going this way, the board's going this way, all creating that grid. I only put one coat on this grid. That's going to be the trap door that goes down to the cellar. And there we go. Now let's go ahead and I did a countertop, just a little bit, a little light coating on the countertop. Now what I'm going to do is the gray. I'm going to do it a little bit differently. I'm going to use a softer brush, the one I normally use for big models, but we're going to go ahead and get some Americana slate gray, and I want there to be paint strokes, or I should say brush strokes, in this. It's almost like a wet coat, but I do want there to be more gray than there is brown. Whoops, you can't even see that. See, that actually looks pretty good the way it is. All right, just by making those two pieces kind of a gray has already transformed this tavern. All right, now we're just going to let this dry, and then we'll come back to it with like a money shot. All right, now we have our inn that's furnished. The only thing I haven't done is put like kitchen utensils and stuff like that in there, but we've got our necromancer as our bartender with his ghostly assistant, and then we've got our town watch. He's in there, as well as like a clock. We got our dwarf up at the bar, you know, and then we've got our bard over in the corner, you know, he's singing, and I've got all these tables and chairs, and we have another fighter over taking in the city through the window over here, sitting by himself in the corner like Aragorn. All right, and that is the Troll Skull Manor ground floor where the tavern is located. I think I did a pretty good job. I'm going to show the players tomorrow when we do our D&D game. Alright guys, thanks for coming out and watching me build this and paint this and put this together for my players. If you want to see more videos like this, please like and subscribe to my channel. Also, we always do take donations if you wanted to help donate so I can get some building materials and supplies and create other videos like this. If you want to see a specific video, or if you have a certain specific painting technique or style that you want me to show you on the screen, be sure to let me know. And thanks for coming out, and I'll catch you next time.